So, I finally set through Zero Black Blood. I didn't have as much on it as I thought I'd have, so I'm just rolling into the normal vlogs. Hi for the week. So yeah, we're covering Zero Black Blood in brief, Toqger 9, Gaim 26, and, Makai Flower. I'm gonna be brief, because I'm really busy right now, so. Zero Black Blood. It focuses on Ray from the original runs of Garo. That is Makai Knight 0. He uses, trying to think of the right phrasing, because I'm, like I said about the Garo franchise, I'm not as familiar as others would. I really liked Zero, though. It gave me a much bigger view of the world than Makai Hana has so far, as in more of the lore, more of the structure of the realm. So I think that's a good jump on points for people who are just getting into Garo. They should watch Zero Black Blood and then move on to the current run of Makai Hana. And anyways, it's mainly about the price of coexistence and whether it can come about, because it revolves around a horror called Rain, who is building a utopia for humans and horrors to coexist. The system by which it would work was every so often, as the community is built between them, every so often a person would be chosen at random to be fed horror blood. Now, horror blood mutates humans who ingest it. That was one of the things about the original Garo series that I actually know about. A woman is infected by a horror, and they eventually become what is called dolls, as far as I understand it, and that is a horror's. It's apparently a delicacy because horrors consume humans, and this is their superfood. But if it's left to fester long enough, they become horrors themselves. So at least that's what I got from what I remember of what I briefed through the original Garo. I'm probably wrong about something about this, but the thing about Rain is he's being logical in that horrors will still come about no matter what the Makai Knights do, but if they can get the system to work, then only the worst of humanity will be. It's like, I'm trying to phrase this correctly. He selects people who are going to be given the death penalty, or whose lives are over, or, who are criminals. Gives them. If it was set up like that, I don't think a lot of people would have a problem with it, like integrate the horrors so that they are death penalty kind of stuff. But it wouldn't work because horrors are continually coming into the world. There would eventually be so many of them dependent on this system that it'd be like what eventually resulted in Death Note, where that even the most petty of crimes would be eligible for being killed through the Death Note system. At least that's from what I remember of Death Note. I haven't watched Death Note in years. Of course, there's no compromising coming from the Makai Knights because it's their job to just hunt horrors. They're not into the politicking of it. They're not into the compromise. Horrors exist. Makai Knights hunt them. That's it. That's the end ground. They're still going to come even if another system comes around, and they're going to be ones that break this system, so there's no real point in even attempting to compromise in the first place. Because even at the end, Rain's entire thing fell apart on him because, well, he couldn't get over how selfish humans were. He couldn't, because he was taking in the most selfish of them, those that commit crimes for selfish reasons, so he couldn't understand why it wasn't working. Except that's the thing. He was being selfish too, because he took a woman whose song he fell in love with. It was his obsession, and in exchange for it, he was building this world of no battles that the woman wanted. I'm blanking on the woman's name. Yui? But regardless, she was a Makai priest, married to a Makai knight, and she was injured in a fight, and Reigns took her for the song, and, well, whatever he did to her to make her submit kind of blinded her and made her a little more than a doll. So, he's trying to build a world for a woman. He's traumatized to the point she doesn't even recognize her own daughter. Yeah, her daughter, named Yuna, is a main character in this, in that to try and rescue her mother after her mother's actions resulted in her father's death. She had her father's new Makai priest partner implant his bones so she could use his Makai blade, because for some reason Makai knights are only men. I think it's since I'm not familiar with the Garo lore, I think it's because the armors they call upon are not individuals, but inherited equipment. And from what I know of the lore, that makes sense to me. So, since they were designed for men, they can only be used by men, because that's how the armor succession system works. It's not a type of sexism, it's just that's how they were made, and they no longer have the knowledge to change that. At least that's how I reason it, because as I said, yeah, I'm moving in circles now. Eventually, when Yuna comes face to face with her mother, she convinces her to no longer sing to Rain, and the song somehow has been suppressing his horror instincts to kill things and consume them. So really, he wasn't suppressing his own nature like he was insisting all the others do. He was having it suppressed for him. So really, everything he says comes off as a hypocritical argument, and it was actually very well written. I'm only getting to the base parts because it's a 6-part story, and it shows what Yasuko Kobayashi can still do. I've commented on her before in that she's kind of been burnt out doing bad stories the last few years, and Zero was very good, very well paced, the action was good, it was great, and I really highly recommend it. Even if you're not familiar with Garo, they get you enough of the basics to know what's going on. I think that people who watched the first 2 seasons where Rei was more of a main character would know more about it, but I think I got a good showcasing of him being a bit standoffish. He's kind of like Guy Yuki in a way. He's kind of a loner. He hangs out at a bar. He drinks not exactly mainstream drinks. It's like weird stuff. And he likes to work alone. And yeah, I liked him because he wasn't completely standoff-dickish. He's just that he's used to operating a certain way, and it was off-putting for him to need or be stuck with Yuna and Kai. That's his name, Kai. Anyways, yeah, good. On to Toqger. I hated this week's story. It's about Marionette Shadow, which causes men to act really defensive. No, not defensive. In defense of women in attacks orchestrated by her, by the Kuros, to make them have the love at first sight thing, and then turn them on the women when they do something with showing respect or crush, and Then it has the men in this part of the trench crush them to create despair through... Yeah. I don't like that. Granted, I'm one of those guys who... I don't believe in love at first sight, so that's... I mean, if your emotions get crushed in a love at first sight thing, it's no big deal. It's just that, oh, I was judging him on attractiveness. He or she's actually a douchebag. And that kind of thing. And it really comes off as, kind of sexist. Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it, because one of the ones hit by this is Miyu. The strong woman of the team, as in, she likes physical activities, actually doing things, the competitive one. She gets hit by this. And then she's got this confliction of interests where the one she does drags her away from the battle and defends her, and she's doing nothing. She's doing nothing. Instead of pushing him to the side and, actually transforming. And then there's this line, girls like you are supposed to be protected. And, of course, since she's been shown to be the tsundere one of the group, I expected her to punch him. She never does. I would think she would have taken that as an insult. But no. Granted, she goes into this sequence where she's training and as if it's planning for a duel, and, kendo outfits, dressing up like, cow. Tired. And at the same time, making him a bento. Like, it's sweet and sour, it's bipolar, this isn't even tsundere anymore. And she goes... It's character inconsistency. And watching Zero and Toqger back to back, because they're both they're both done by Yasuko Kobayashi. She's at least head writer or screen... She at least does dialogue on these, and it's literally night and day. She usually does better with the darker stuff than fun-loving and stuff, because with darker stuff, you get that seriousness, that layer of... See, this is why I script things. I never know what I'm trying to say when I'm doing this ad-lib. With serious stuff, you have to... The presentation is more important. Because if you're telling a serious story and your material is falling apart on itself, it's all the easier to say it's bad, because you see the whole is easier. But with the kids show, and I think that's part of the problem. They're continually approaching it from the angle of it's for kids and not caring about the quality. But yeah, it does, because when you're ignoring the fun, the age bracket, it's not holding up. And this is the thing with Go Busters and several other series she's written for, in that something is killing her ability to write something good. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because there are actually other writers on this, and we only see the credits for the main or head writer, that's... she's just held up her hands in defeat. I don't know, but this was not good. And then we had the premiere of Diesel. I've made no apology for me hating the mechs this year, and This is another one that's just awful. Seriously, Mike Gine! Watch Mike Gine! Much better trains. And yeah, it's just a bunch of boxes assembled together. So that doesn't even have weapons. Its capacity is pure power, and the Super Train Megazord, aka the Grand Liner, was pure power and size for that matter, and it still had weapons. It had a Gatling gun. It had missiles. It could equip both of those from its shoulders to make them into boxing gloves. That was awesome. That is how you do power, not stick a tank engine and a car carrier as legs, and then box it with a diesel engine on one arm and a bunch of empty boxes on the other, with apparently a head and torso area with a bunch of turbines. That doesn't make a lot of sense. That doesn't really seem power. Oh, and its finishing move is to do a spin double foot kick. It's pretty much just dropping the toy with its arms in, this kind of position onto the monster. And that's not creative. That's not imaginative. This is a series about imagination. Go wacky combinations. Don't just... here's some toys. They link together at the backs. I am really in the minority about hating this series, but damn is it's failing at its own premises consistently, and that just doesn't stop annoying me. I had this crazy Twitter conversation the other week where me, Matthew Rhodes, aka Emerald Blue, and Derek the Bard got in this tweet chain about the zaniness of Toqger, because this was actually started by the Twitter account of Wagon, and all of the Twitter role players for the Toqger gang got involved, and I just said I quit when Otoya Kurenai Twitter role player got involved, and I waved my hands in defeat. So, yeah, the woman with the least likeliness of being shown to be weak of the two. No. On to Gaim. Yeah, I can safely say that anyone that liked Micchi and hoping that he wouldn't turn into a total douchebag is now kicking themselves. Because Michizane? Villain. Yeah. Mai catches up with Kota to confront him on why he's been avoiding her, and he breaks down. He tells her about what happened to Yuya, and she accepts him. She accepts that he couldn't do anything. She forgives him for killing Yuya, and that's why he's been avoiding her, because he couldn't take the guilt about that right now, and he didn't... See, this is my thing with not knowing what to say again. He was avoiding her because he didn't want to put more guilt on his plate by her recriminations. And she forgives him, she hugs him, she says that she won't let him take the burden for this alone, and then she does something stupid, in that she informs all the other people, while Micchi is there. Yeah, Micchi tries to blame this all on Kota, in why he didn't tell them anything about it. And that's gonna be his thing, just blaming Kota. It's like he doesn't want to take responsibility for his own actions because he thinks Kota's not going to his game, he's not conforming to how he's doing things, and it's wrecking all of this crap. But as I've been saying, lying does not fix things. So instead of telling Mai another secret, aka why revealing Yggdrasil would be a bad thing, he lets them do it. In that Mai puts together a presentation on one of the boards, and then he pulls out a bunch of Lockseeds out of nowhere to summon Invests in a swarm to not only make people run away, but discredit her words in front of a big audience. In other words, the entire thing we dealt with 8 episodes ago, to show that the beat writers weren't the ones doing all of the crimes with the Invests. And she discredits him. He discredits her. His thing is to keep Mai happy, and so he can have good times with Mai in more ways than one. And he blames Kota for this, and yet he's the one who discredits her. He's the one who will make it so hard for her to get an audience again in her dancing, which makes her happy. He is the one who has now wrecked her life. And he is blaming Kota for this, when all he needed to say was, Yggdrasil can kill people if you let this out, don't tell anybody. And when he tries to verbally assault Kota for letting it come to this, Mai slaps him. And his delusion comes crashing down. And now he's on the warpath to get rid of Kota. Yeah. Also, in the pre-opening segment, we see Takatora Bata talking to someone, implying that Yggdrasil is funded by a third party. And I think that's Foundation X. Those not familiar with the recent Heisei era, Foundation X is a multi-writer conglomerate first noted in Kamen Rider Double. They were doing research into the Gaia memory to artificially evolve humanity for some reason. Then they tried it with the core and cell metals from O's. And then they were also a backer for the research into the cosmic switches from Fours. We didn't see them at all for Wizard for some reason, but the thing about them was evolving humanity. What if the reason why was they knew about the Helheim Forest? What if they knew about these coming threats from an alternate world, and they know they wouldn't be able to stop it on their own, so they were going to use these means to make humanity as a whole be able to stand on their own. Necro-overs, manifesting greed or yummies from people's bodies, evolving them, making them change into the Zodiarts, and just being able to fight it. And one by one, the writers were stopping them because of what was going on with their personal things. They're not actually evil. Some of them are corrupt, but they were trying to stop those bigger threats, and all of the writers were dooming them without knowing it, until Yggdrasil was their last hope. They put it all into Yggdrasil's stuff. Yggdrasil's extreme measures were because they had no other options, and they needed to depend on Helheim research to stop the Helheim. This is why I like Gen Urobuchi, because he does this. He makes even stuff he wasn't related to being involved in. He helps give you this question on whether the good guys are actually the good guys when they don't know what the hell's going on. And I know cross-rider series continuity is sketchy at best. Half of my theories for stuff I've said in the Showa is probably invalidated, but I like tying this stuff together, and it makes sense to me. Because we've never been fully told what the hell Foundation X was, because they've kind of disappeared at moments from the stuff, and it's a theory I don't want to discredit just because we haven't seen them. Because there had to be a reason. There had to be where they were... They had to explain where they were getting funding. I mean, Yggdrasil popped out of nowhere, all things considered. And it's just a throwaway line, but Takatora Bata has not... Takatora has not been shown to have superiors as of yet. He's been the big cheese. He's been the one that's been forwarding this plan to destroy the world so some can survive in the Helheim environments. And he's starting to show second thoughts, especially with this new revelation about the overlords that may pan out, except he's still in the greater dark because neither Micchi nor Ryoma are telling him about it. Granted, Micchi gave that report, but it's secondhand information from Kota. But that Takatora hasn't been updated on in a while. So, for all he knows, Project Ark and killing 6/7 of the planet is the only option, and he's struggling with that knowledge now that he knows that there potentially might be something they overlooked. And Michi's still, this is time back to the Micchi stuff. Michi's going to kill the best opportunity they have for stopping this in revenge for his own actions. Yeah, he's definitely the villain. I keep saying Sengoku, but I keep saying Ryoma. I keep saying the villain is Ryoma because he's pretty much done the same thing as Micchi, but we've seen Michi's descent into darkness, so to speak. In that he started off as a privileged kid just wanting to help out and be dependent, be the one that everyone praises, and now he wants to be the controlling madman. So he is Darth Vader. He is becoming Darth Vader. Don't know how I missed that, because I haven't had the Emperor Palpatine good going on in my head when he met with Ryoma in this episode. And they use Kota's trust in Micchi, which hopefully will be gone soon, to track down the Invest overlords and have Kaito fight them. Kaito got an upgrade. He is now Baron Lemon Energy Arms. Okay. History to this. Kaito was not going to get an upgrade initially, but he's apparently popular with the kids in Japan, so they wrote in a special upgrade that they originally weren't going to do with him. And they gave him the Lemon Energy Arms, which means there are now 3 Lemon Energy Galaxies in play, one that's Ryoma's, one that's Kota's, and now one that's Kaito's. And the original... I got verification for this. The arm change equipment for the Sengoku driver equipment, the armors, they are actually designed to be exchangeable between the suits. The other suits are completely different components. They can just equip and go. That was very good in a cost-saving measure, but that was not originally designed for the Energy Riders because they weren't designed for the mix and match system. So they had to make a new Energy Arms armor just for Baron's use. I would have just given him the Jimba drum. Give him a Genesis core and make it slot in like Kota's equipment. It wouldn't have been that much of a difference, except, I don't know, maybe you could have added in the Melon Energy for his... Because that's the only one we haven't seen used as a Jimba, and that could have been his exclusive Jimba arms. You're going to be rebuilding this stuff anyways. Why not already tie it into something so you only need to show one Jimba active at a time? That's another way to do it because you've already been building the slots for them. It's a smaller piece, smaller component. regardless, he's now got his energy arms, and he does actually pretty well against Demushu, the Red Overlord. And actually gets to injure him, so we know that the Overlords are stronger than the Energy Riders, but not by much, meaning that they can be taken out pretty easily by Kachidoki. Thing is, Kota hasn't used Kachidoki against any of them, because he still thinks he can talk them into stopping the Helheim invasion. Yeah, why do I think that destroying them will lose the Helheim's grasp on the world, or take it all back to a central point? That's actually the Helheim spirit, which we all think the cigar is. So it's just padding. Now we know that Kachidoki is stronger than the Energy Riders because he wipes the floor with Yoko, Kamen Rider Marika, in this one. And I mean easy domination. Before, we just saw him fight off Sid, Kamen Rider Sigurd's assaults with the watermelon lock seed equipment. And yeah, it shows a power scale, because he's not even using the charge attacks. He just DJ'd in the single shot blast, and that knocked Yoko out of transformation. And then he came across Kaito and Demushu fighting and stopped them from fighting further. Demushu was ordered to retreat, and then Kota had changed back into his base form. I don't know why, but he was trying to argue with Kaito into not doing the short-sighted thing of just fight, fight, fight. And then he, with no other option, Kota decides to show him his own power, to show him that just because you have power doesn't mean you need to use it. So he's going to go catch Doki and knock him on his ass to show him, to prove to him that this isn't the right way. And then Micchi shoots him in the back as his arms are changing. Yeah, there is no sympathy for Micchi anymore from anybody. I've checked Twitter. Anyone who's watched this episode knows that, and they're not going to take it from him anymore. This thing's about to time out. I'm just going to pause it. Yeah, I go longer than 30 minutes, and this thing's going to buzz, so that's why I did that. And we know a few things from the preview of the next episode. So we're getting a flashback arc, which I really hope I won't have to use ICR subs as I did this week. I was surprised at the few uses of warring that ended up using in the episode, because that's my thing with Izir. They're translating Sengoku as warring. I've checked how they use Sengoku. His name does not translate as warring states, period. It translates as extreme. I'm serious. They are mistranslating this word because it's a name. He does not... The kanji for his word does not... I just said that. The kanji in his words are not the characters that are used for the word Sengoku as in reference to the warring states, period. It is a wrong translation. I am not crazy about this obsession of mine with the Izir. So I'm really hoping TV Nihon's on the ball next week, because they get this right. Yeah, we were shown some previews of a flashback arc and Taka Tora working with Kota. Meaning, this is probably closer to where the Kamen Rider Tyson movie is occurring due to some of the preview stuff we're getting for it. I don't know. Continuity is tricky with these cross-series crossovers. On to Makai No Hana. I surprisingly don't have a lot to say for episodes of this show. I don't know why. It's just that it's really well presented so that it's more visual storytelling and action than speaking. Except with the setting as they build it, it's not a bad thing. It's really atmospheric. That's the best way I can phrase it. Anyways, the horror named Succubus, because I need to point that out, possesses a woman who has a break from sanity. That's apparently an artist obsessed with using flowers in depictions of death. Not to say that, and she starts on this killing spree because people have the mistaken assumption that her work is death, or life from death symbolized by flowers. It's not. It's that nature is beautiful in spite of death, or some crap like that. I'm not an expert on art. I like what I like for reasons that I like it. So yeah, she starts killing people, and her first attack is before she's even possessed by the horror. The horror, in fact, makes itself subservient to the woman, because then it will get its food without really having to do anything, and letting... No, that's wrong. I think it's more along the lines of... Instead of subverting the woman's existence, the horror fused with it, because the woman was already a monster. And just giving it some power will allow her to feed. And yeah, we get some pretty twisted stuff with her turning people into art, and that's about half the opening of the show. Then we get the Mayuri plot, in that she's trying to do stuff on her own, even though she's important to the story, and, you know, she's kind of dull-like. And then, all this time, Raiga is off meeting with the watchdogs, who need to remind her that his priority is the horrors and not His priority is the horrors and not Mayuri. Except as they say this, they say don't care about retrieving the mystic tool that Mayuri is, and focus on killing the horror. Here's the problem with that. Mayuri is important to stealing the horrors that trap Eris. If Mayuri is damaged, destroyed, they won't be able to steal Eris again, or destroy her, as it's being implied. So that she's in fact more important than the horrors, and yet they're treating her like she's nothing. Like they just have a backup plan in case she fails, except she is the backup plan in the first place. So it doesn't make sense to not care about what happens to something that is really hard to make if she is an artificial existence, or something they need to turn innocent people into to do this, when they can just catch the horror again. I'm gladly explaining this, but it's pretty much that the watchdogs aren't caring about the bigger picture, just that the horror gets killed. And Raiga's not wrong in seeing Mayuri as a person. Because we see signs that she's human, or at least has human-like feelings that are just being suppressed. So Raiga's doing more towards caring for Mayuri, even if she's not an actual human being, than the watchdogs are, who created her in the first place. It's like she's expendable. She's not. If she was a normal human, they train these humans in mass, apparently, so yeah, but she's an irreplaceable magical instrument, at the very least, that is hard to replace. So it'd be like losing a Makai Knight armor in this case. Not exact. No, yeah, it's as if they were losing a Makai Knight armor, because that they can't easily replace those, I think. So yeah, Raiga rescues her. Succubus the horror turns out to be plant-themed. Succubi and plant monsters are not the same thing. I shouldn't be surprised because Japan has this thing about not researching Western or other country things or roots for things. So, for some reasons, one of them got in the head. We need some plant thing. How about a succubus? Is a succubus plant themed? Actually, I think those are nymphs, but I don't think anyone in our country will care. Nymph, drow, I'm not a mythology expert either, but I at least know that succubi are not plants. It's a bad matchup, too, because Raiga's Garo powers include fire manipulation. Yeah, easy win. In fact, that's kind of a thing I've been noticing. It's a dichotomy between Zero and this season in that these horrors, which are supposed to be elites that they use to seal this super thing, are they're in fact easier than the ones Rei fought in Zero Black Blood. Granted, he was fighting horrors en masse, but he got a bigger challenge from Rain. He did. So it's kind of this odd dichotomy in that I like both series, but Zero told the better stories. Well, Makai Flower's story is still evolving, but, the story with the fight was better. In that he showed him struggling for the victory. Second battles, I understand. Maybe if this goes full 26, it'll make sense. And Ray's had 52 episodes already to show how awesome he is, so they had to give him a challenge. It's just that I'm seeing a difference in how everything is structured, and I'm questioning whether the longer series will be better in the end, I guess. Because that's again the dichotomy. I saw Zero in one burst, and I'm seeing all these other shows as they develop. It's the difference in approach, I guess, from a viewer's perspective. That's all I got for this week. Be sure to next week.